So here just recently, a ban on cell phones in public schools was expanded from being in K through 8th grade all the way through 12th grade. And I want to talk about what good impact I believe that's going to have on math education. Now, specifically, this was in my state, the state of Georgia. Governor Brian Kemp apparently signed legislation here recently that expanded that students access to their own electronic devices, um quote, bell to bell. So I'm guessing like once school starts and once it ends, I'm guessing outside of that time, whatever. um but he expanded the ban on cell phones to include high school. It previously did not include high school, um but now it does, and lawmakers are calling this a quote distraction free education environment across all K through 12 public schools. Now, this is, in my opinion, a very, very good thing for math education. Very, very good. Now, I'm sure that there are definitely people who disagree with this, and I get it. We live in a different world, very different from the world that I grew up in, where cell phones largely weren't a thing. They weren't really a thing in school until I got into high school. But we live in a world where we have a high value on being able to communicate with our loved ones on a regular basis, you know, whether it be spouses, you know, children, or other relatives. However, from the educational standpoint, first off, being one who did not grow up around cell phones, having a cell phone in school, I did have one in high school. College, but it was a flip phone and I was about grown at that time. And, there's only so much you can text. Um, but a bigger distraction for me probably was just computers in general. However, I digress. Being one who went through K through 12 without having a personal device, I cannot imagine having a personal device as a grade schooler. Cuz let's be honest. Yes, cell phones are great for staying in touch with loved ones and whatnot, but they're also great for a distraction. So I have a lot of students who, a lot of their school is done through phones. So, whether it be PDFs of their books or access to Canvas and a lot of these other tools that schools use. But we must not forget also that there are social media applications on there. There's YouTube, there's so many things that are just geared toward entertainment that are also in the hands of a student. And one thing that I lament is that we put it all in the hands of students these days to manage all of the power they have in a device. So I believe that this legislation that was signed into law by our governor here in Georgia is a really, really good thing. It's a good thing, and I also believe this. Here's something else. Like I said earlier, we're very used to being able to always communicate with people, and it's kind of hard now to imagine not being able to do that. But there was a time that we did it, and it wasn't any big deal. You could literally go throughout the day and not have, not receive a text from a family member or whatever, and you weren't worried about it. And so what happened is, as personal devices became pervasive and more powerful as far as like what they offered, we were conditioned to feel like we always needed to have contact. And I'm not saying that that contact is a bad thing, but the question is, how necessary is it? Especially, those of us who remember how it used to be, we weren't worried about, man, where's my loved one? We just weren't, at least not for the most part. So we've been conditioned to technology, and that's one of the things that really concerns me in regard to technology as it relates to math education anyway. Yes, there are great tools. You have applications like iExcel and Desmos and Delta Math, Khan, so many different resources that on one hand really, really do make math even more accessible to people. Everybody. You know, you have so many tools to help you to improve in math. I mean, it's just wonderful. Even the fact that when I conduct tutoring, I typically conduct it in a way similar to how I'm recording this video now. It's very accessible. But on the other hand, a lot of the tools, there are some tools out there that we're using that I believe are not helping math students. So another case in point is a lot of my students use Desmos, which I think is a great tool. I don't know a lot about it. I haven't personally used it, but I've looked at it a little bit. But what I'm discovering is that sometimes when I'm helping my students, I'm tutoring my students, and they're solving problems, they're literally going into Desmos on in our tutoring sessions and getting it to do the work for them. There are certain things that they do in Desmos that we learned to do on our own, and they weren't even really that hard. I get it as one who also has an engineering background. I understand the importance of, saving time and advancing by building in different kind of things in the software, letting software do the math that we used to do. However, there's also importance of developing one's thinking abilities as well. And sometimes I wonder, are we kind of doing too much in regard to pushing our kids toward letting apps do their math for them and whatnot? That's really a separate subject. But anyway, on the distraction side of things, I believe that banning phones in school is important. Obviously that will need to come with, ensuring that if students need to get in touch with their parents, that they're able to do so, by going to the office, like we used to be able to do, which worked fine for us. Um, but at the end of the day, I have a lot of students who, well, I won't say a lot. I have a few of my students who are very much distracted by phones, even during tutoring. And it's just hard. It's to have all that capability in a device, even if you have helpful stuff that you can do with a phone. There's so much distraction. And if math, here's the deal, and I'll let this be it. The thing about math is when you are learning math, it's such a building blocks kind of subject where you really don't learn one thing well unless you learn the thing before it very well. And if you have learning gaps, for example, maybe you didn't do very well in pre-algebra, but then you go through algebra and eventually get algebra 2, there's going to be real consequence there. It is, because there are certain concepts that you learn in advanced math that still won't quite make sense. And you can try to wing it, but sometimes you can't really get away with winging it. And all of the distractions that come with personal devices, especially for kids, because let's face it, as adults, it's hard enough for us to stay focused. But with our kids having devices even in school during learning, and we know that many of them are using those devices in class during teaching, my concern is that it helps to facilitate math learning gaps, because how much can you really focus on learning all of the fundamentals of math when you also at the same time have maybe TikTok or something like that open? So it's just a real concern of mine. I believe that there could be some concern, more so because a lot of us don't remember how it was without phones. But just like anything else, I believe that if like the state of Georgia and any other states that are doing this kind of thing are consistent and focused, then we'll find our way, and then we'll see indeed that, you know, limiting devices with children will actually assist. Because you really got to focus. You really have to focus with math, and it's hard to really do well if you have music and TikTok and all these things all around. You really impede your ability to learn, because you really have an amazing thing right here inside of your head, but we like to multitask, and it doesn't really do as well when we are engaging our brain so many different ways at the same time. So anyway, this is my little commentary on the recent, you know, news. I'm excited about it, but let me know what you think. Do you think that students should still have access to cell phones in class, or do you think it's a big distraction that should have never happened anyway, and that hurts education? Let me know your thoughts.